So say you found a skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Jackson Horizon, which is Jackson with Jackson 16. Jackson, we've been doing this for over a year.
Bonkers.
Yeah, because Jackson with Jackson 12 would have been our 1 year anniversary episode. So, we're actually starting a brand new Charles Jackson video. Now, you might think that we're not because it looks exactly like the last one. But that's because this one was recorded on the same day in the same place with the same shitty equipment. Oh, and I just realized, well, you know what? We're like 4 minutes in, so maybe YouTube won't immediately demonetize me for saying that. This time, Charles Jackson, Bad Jackson, if you will, is going to be talking to us about star formation, problems with stellar evolution with Dr. Charles Jackson. And I, of course, am here with the breadman himself, Jackson Wheat, who is currently working on degrees, but is not yet a doctor. But soon we'll have another Dr. Jackson, and this one will be good Dr. Jackson. Although I guess you'd be like Dr. Wheat. I don't know how names work.
I don't know. I feel like I'd be like a cool professor, and I'd be like, you can call me whatever, kids.
You know, they would just make up like insulting nicknames for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, as long as you understand that that's how that would work. So, first I want to say thank you everyone who's here, but I see that a bunch of you haven't hit like, so you could hit like, that would help a lot. And I'll explain what we do here. So what we do here is basically we make fun of the lowest hanging fruit in Young Earth Creationism on Tuesdays, and we accompany that with a drinking game. Now, before we actually get into the rules of the drinking game, I want to say, guys, if you don't want to play along, or you want to play along with something other than alcohol, including just, you know, like water or a glass of soda or juice or something, that's perfectly fine. There's absolutely no requirement that you actually drink alcohol. In fact, I believe that Good Jackson here will probably be drinking something that isn't alcoholic.
In fact, you are correct.
So there you go.
It's Coke.
There you go. I'm drinking a vodka cola, so there's that. Now, also, if you do decide to play along, and you decide to play along with any kind of intoxicating substance, please know your limits. Don't exceed them. And if you then, you know, go and do something silly, like operate heavy machinery, or drive a car, or even ride a bike, that's on you. You've been warned. Don't do that. Dapper Dino Channel accepts neither liability nor responsibility for anything that you do as a result of not knowing your limits and overindulging. That being said, let's talk about the drinking rules. So first, if our creationist says something that's too dumb, we just have to take, and you know, we need to cool our brains off, we take a drink for that. If he says something that's factually correct, that is not simply a quotation from someone else, but it actually comes out of the creationist's own mind, we'll take a drink for that. If he tells a story that didn't happen, or he tells a joke that doesn't land, we'll take a drink for that. If the creationist in question mentions the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or various prominent members or significant activities, shall we say, especially from the early 20th century, we'll take a drink for that too. Also, if one of us can predict in a circumstance where it's not obviously clear where this argument is going, what the argument will be, we'll take a drink for that too. However, there are also some ways that you in the audience can trigger drinks. One is that if you are a channel member, which, by the way, starts at $1.99 a month, so what are you waiting for? You have access to the channel emojis, which include a Godzilla, a Mothra, and a King Ghidorah. Any channel milestone or super chat that contains any of those will be caused a drink. Now, because I know that certain YouTube apps have problems both with accessibility and with just the emojis in general, if you do something that indicates that that's your intention and you're a channel member, we'll accept that too. Also, if you super chat anything to the effect that AIG are a bag of dicks, we will take a drink for that. Now, you have to be a little bit clever because you can't just type in AIG or a bag of dicks because, well, YouTube won't let you. AIG, by the way, is Answers in Genesis, and this stretches back to a while back when they were copyright claiming anyone who was using any of their material, even if their material itself was using other people's material as fair use. So they were being gigantic hypocrites on top of being copyright trolls. So that's why we do that. Also, if you buy gift memberships, which is a thing you can do, and I believe now you can even do it on Android, we will take a drink for each gift membership. Which means if you buy us 50 memberships, I'm probably going to have to go get a new drink. And maybe a new liver. So, you know. So yeah, that's that. And also, occasionally, randomly, we will get the noise of Godzilla or Mothra coming through. That is just sort of a random wildcard drink option. I want to say Skeletor, over 9,000, has been a member for 4 months and is at the amniote level. And Skeletor says, AIG is an infinite pocket dimension filled to the brim with fallacious phalluses. There you go. Take a drink, everybody.
Nice.
With that, Jackson, do you have anything to add before we get into the bad Jackson part?
Nope, not me.
All right, here we go. A brand new video, the dawn of a new era of Jackson with Jackson. The one where we talk about stars. Something that I'm sure good Jackson is an expert on.
That's nice, dear.
Einstein said that there are only two ways of looking at the universe. One, that nothing's a miracle, or two, that everything is a miracle.
Oh, and Arachamian just gifted 1 Dapper Dinosaur membership, so before we address this, we're going to take 1 drink. And it went to the Enbead. So go ahead, Jackson, what do you have to say about this?
No. Absolutely not.
Well,
I don't know that quote, although I have reason to doubt, but I maybe he meant like if there are miracles, then anything could potentially be a miracle, which I suppose that's true. But the options are not either everything is or nothing is, because I think you're hard pressed to find like most theists who would agree that everything is a miracle.
Yeah, I agree. Also, we got another gift subscription from Arachamian that went to Nim, whom I'm hoping has at least one secret. That's a reference to some 90s cartoons right there. Well, a cartoon. Very good one, by the way.
The mice.
The Secret of Nim is a great movie.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's about a mouse who's on a quest to save her child from a horrible disease while the humans are out hunting them. She stumbles into some kind of deep conspiracy in the human world and whatnot. Like, that's some great stuff. Plus, it's got like a crow and an owl and some rats and whatnot. Good stuff.
Oh yeah, and the crow was was it Dom DeLuise?
I believe it was. Well, we're taking that drink though. Here we go. Apparently, it was the 80s, not the 90s. Sorry about that. My cartoon dating is not the most firm. But I do notice that my members did send a whole bunch of tetrapods, which is in fact the way that we welcome new members is with the tetrapod emoji. So thank you very much. And yeah, generally speaking, most theists that I'm aware of would define a miracle as a act of God that suspends or supersedes the normal working of the universe. And so, yeah, that wouldn't mean everything or nothing. It would mean some small subset of things are miracles. Now, I understand the idea where you can say, well, maybe there are no miracles. Everything is naturalistic. There are no direct acts by God that are outside the realm of natural phenomena. Or you could say, well, if God is the creator of everything, then that means that to some extent, everything happens at least by his permission, if not his direct action, which makes it everything sort of an act of God, in which case everything is kind of a miracle. I guess, but those are non-standard definitions of miracles. But also, Dr. Tapioca Weasel has gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. They went to Cindy Bidwell Glaze, Border Barbecue, which is what I'm saying for BBQ there, Old Man Joe, Jarrett Tilford, and Colin Dietrich. So thank you very much. We will take 5 drinks, and thank you everybody for all of the tetrapod emojis. But less thank you for the pelagic tunicate emojis, because pelagic tunicates are the worst animals in the world. And yes, I'm including things like leeches and parasitic isopods. Mosquitoes. You see those parasitic isopods that replace a fish's tongue?
Yeah, those are pretty awful. Or there's the ones that live like in the eyes of Greenland sharks.
I thought those were worms. Were they isopods?
There may be worms also. I thought.
I don't know. Well,
hey, you know what? There are lots of parasites in the ocean.
Yeah, there are. All right, here we go. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But also, Ruski Rumi for $1.99 says AIG is a vesicle of pili. You know what, we're going to go for it. Don Giovanni says for $2, Responses and Revelations is a folio of Van Dyke. And TD Lane for $2 just sends a bunch of pelagic tunicates. Absolutely disgusting, TD. How dare you, sir? Alright, here we go.
And if you know much about him and his personality, he probably went with that everything's a miracle sort of a thing. And I don't care what you think about how the universe got here.
Oh, a Savage Cobra really official is indicating that the Greenland shark eye parasites are copepods. Which is not isopods, but it is a crustacean.
Oh, copepods, yeah.
Of course, I also say that insects are crustaceans. And I hate the word pancrustacea as much as I do Artiodactyla. Jackson.
I don't make the rules, I just enforce them.
Soulcat, who's been a member for 1 month, says, what does this do? Solutions in Startings is a soggy satchel of sorted spurters. Nice, we'll take a drink. Thank you very much. Alright, here we go.
You know, the Big Bang, or whether God said, let there be light, or both.
Or both.
You believe in miracles. Every single person does.
No.
No.
No. No. No.
No, we've already explained why, though. It's just dumb.
This is the equivocation. He's just trying to hoist his beliefs on everyone, and basically bring everyone down to his level. And that's one of Aaron's foundational falsehoods is the equivocation about like definitions and everything. So like, oh, everything's a miracle, and nothing is evolution, and all that sort of stuff. So popular creationist tactic.
Yeah, My Unfinished Journey for $2 says AIG is a long line of luxurious linguini, and I'll take a drink for that. That is a lot of alliteration. Also, N. Bede says Set Artiodactyla, Ava Dinosauria. Yeah, it's the exact same thing. It's dumb.
Yeah, it is dumb.
Yeah, in case anyone is wondering, Set Artiodactyla is what you call Artiodactyla plus cetaceans, who are just Artiodactyls. So, why? Why would you do this? And the answer is there's no good reason, which is also why pancrustacea is dumb, because insects nest within crustaceans. So if you just say crustacea, you have to include the insects unless you want it to be paraphyletic. So just don't let it be paraphyletic and call it crustacea.
Because pantestudines is turtles plus their closest relatives.
Right, yeah, it's
relatives.
Yeah, there's there's actual non-testudines that are in pantestudines.
Yep.
That would make sense. Like if you had pancrustacea that included like stem crustaceans, then okay, fine. But that would still leave crustacea including insects. So
yeah.
Taxonomists are not immune from doing a dumb, is basically what I'm getting at.
Dapper, what we should do is take over, and then we make our own rules of taxonomy.
Why don't we just enforce the ones that we have?
I don't have answers for you, but clearly it's not working.
Well, yeah, it's because there's no enforcement mechanism.
You have to become the law, Dapper.
Exactly. Then we'll enforce it.
Dogs.
Well.
Oh, whoops. Oops.
Yeah, I mean, that does seem to be the inevitable result of becoming law enforcement, is that suddenly you just shoot dogs all the time. I don't know. Maybe it's part of the training manual. It's like, Chapter 3 is no-knock raids on the wrong house, and Chapter 4 is how to murder dogs.
Yeah.
Right in there.
It's clearly in the handbook. Yeah.
Actually, someone the other day said, you should be nicer to cops. And my response was basically just, no. It's just not going to happen. Anyway, here we go.
No way to get around it. However you think the universe got here, you believe in something that's fantastical.
That's not what miracle means by any definition.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to take a drink for... If it's fantastical, I guess it's a miracle. No. Being currently unexplained, or hard to explain, or hard to understand is not synonymous with miraculous. Yeah, Arahamian says, Homo simiformes? Yeah, exactly. Also dumb. All of these would be dumb things for people to say.
That's why eukaryotes, instead of saying eukaryotes, we just have a list of all the species within eukarya.
And unimaginable, and doesn't happen today. unless you're a steady state theorist.
Well, if the universe is already here, then why would it birth again? What is the line of argumentation there? If something's already happened, why would it happen again? I don't get it.
I mean, maybe there could be a new Big Bang inside the universe. I don't know enough about what caused it in the first place to say that's impossible, but I also don't see why it should happen.
Yeah.
Something else. And so everybody does believe in miracles. It's just a matter of what miracles you choose to believe in. It took me 5 hours, but I did convince the Atheist Club at University of Texas El Paso that they believed in miracles too. They found
Dapper, is this a shampoo argument?
Yeah, this sounds like a story that didn't happen. He convinced the whatever it was Dallas atheists,
The Atheist member, Atheist Club,
the Atheist Club, in his shower. Yeah, he was taking a shower in Dallas and having a hypothetical argument with some college kids in an atheism club.
I think that's a sauna at that point.
Yeah.
If the shower is that big,
That's a good point. Maybe he was at the sauna.
I don't want to.
Anyway.
I don't want to think about this anymore.
No, it's one of those saunas where you have to at least wear like a towel.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's still fair. Although that's a very strange place.
I mean,
Like,
look,
oh, Dr. Charles Jackson, let us argue with you about the definition of miracles here in the sauna.
well, no, they were imaginary interlocutors. That's the whole point. No one actually went into the sauna to argue with him for 4 hours or 5 hours. He was there in like a heat stroke induced delirium, having a pretend discussion with non-existing juvenile atheists about how they believe in miracles. And finally, after 5 whole hours, he was like, "Oh, they finally believe me, miracles!" And then some like attendant came in and dragged his near-dead body out and gave him like IV fluids. That's my version of events.
They believe me.
Spinny, who's been a member for 10 months at the annual level, says, play Dungeons of Dreadmore. I mean, I'm doing Jackson with Jackson right now. I can't just up and play Dungeons of Dreadmore, but I'll keep it in mind. Which actually reminds me, speaking of dungeons, if you're inclined to go ahead and get anything from my Amazon wishlist, it's full of non-D&D, non-Wizards of the Coast RPG stuff. Because while I do think that Wizards of the Coast has gone a long way towards making amends, I still feel like it's time to branch out beyond their products because, well, I mean, they've shown they're not a trustworthy company. So, there you go. Anyway.
Yes, we do. You're right. But tonight we're going to be talking about stellar evolution. We're not talking about the Big Bang. We're talking about something that happens after the Big Bang and is in the course of that kind of thinking that the universe made itself.
By the way, there's no such thing really as after the Big Bang. The Big Bang is ongoing currently. But, like, yeah, it's something that happens millions of years after the initial expansion starts. So, I mean, I guess there's that.
Out of nothing, violating the first law of thermodynamics.
Oh, let's take a drink for violating the first law of thermodynamics for the Big Bang, and then we'll go into it. But first, we have to read some IPA from Steve Areno. Steve Areno says, Answers in Genesis is a bag of dicks. And then sends a pelagic tunicate. Thank you very much, Steve Areno, and I appreciate the dedication to actually going in and using the International Phonetic Alphabet. Which, in case you guys aren't aware of, which most of you should be, I am a big fan of the International Phonetic Alphabet. I'm such a big fan of it, I can't always say it correctly the first go-around. Okay, so, does the Big Bang violate the first law of thermodynamics? Well, first, Jackson, do you remember the first law of thermodynamics?
The first law of thermodynamics?
Mm-hmm. Don't say the zeroth law. This is quiz time for Jackson. Does he remember physics well enough to know the first law of thermodynamics?
Thermodynamics in motion will stay in motion until acted on by an outside thermodynamic. I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of like one of the laws of physics that it exists. So the first law of thermodynamics says that in an isolated system, the total energy and mass of the system, when you sum them together as a total amount of energy, will stay the same. Now, the universe can be reasonably treated as an isolated system in most cases, which means that the total amount of energy, including mass, cannot change in that system. But here's the question. What's that total? I would contend that there's a very real possibility that the total is actually 0. Because remember, there are types of energy that have opposite signs to other types of energy. For instance, gravity is usually given a negative sign compared to, say, thermal energy or kinetic energy. So it's actually entirely possible that the entire universe contains a sum total of 0 energy when you actually add all of it up. In which case, the Big Bang doesn't actually create any energy. But even if it started with some non-zero amount of energy, that's how it started. That's how the system initiates. We don't know of there being an earlier time when there would have been less energy. So, yeah, no, none of this violates the first law of thermodynamics. And Jackson, in case you're wondering, the 0th law of thermodynamics, which I warned you against using, is that if system A is in thermodynamic equilibrium with system B, and system B is in thermodynamic equilibrium with system C, then systems A and C are also in thermodynamic equilibrium with each other.
Just a syllogism, yeah.
Well, it's important because otherwise you can't rely on thermometers. Yeah, which is basically why it was eventually realized that we needed another law. And since it was more basic than the other 3, it became the 0th instead of the 4th law.
How sad, he got demoted.
Well, I mean, I guess. But 0 is one of the most important numbers. It's one of the last ones that humans figure out how to use.
Yep.
Anyway, here we go. If I can find my mouse. There it is.
That all the matter and energy in the universe was created.
No, that's not what that's saying. We'll take a drink. That's just... no. Okay.
At one point, in about a trillionth of a second. Well, I'm going to get ahead of myself. Marilyn Busavant here is in the Guinness Book of World Records as having the highest IQ, and I kind of like quoting things from her. I don't agree.
Who?
He's very concerned with IQs.
Who cares?
Don't you know he's part of the Mensa Society? He has a high IQ.
I did know that, but like, I don't understand what this woman who, I mean, good for her being in the Guinness Book of World Records, but like, here's a fun fact. Having a high IQ doesn't make you an expert on anything. It doesn't guarantee that you're right about anything. It means almost nothing, except that you're really good at a particular kind of test. That's all that means.
That the fake measurement is fake?
I mean, yeah, look, I'm not an expert on IQs. However, from what I've seen, it does seem to be mostly fake. Also, Dark Law Dragon, who's been a member for 10 months and is at the tetrapod level, says Godzilla, Mothra, Ghidorah, and then an AIG is a bag of dickus emoji. So we're going to take a drink for that. Thank you very much. All right. Let's see. Okay, here we go.
With everything that she says, I like her philosophical statements. Look what she says here. Be able to defend your arguments in a rational way. Otherwise, all you have is a what? I taught high school for 11 years. So
isn't that like any thinking person at all would recognize like that they should be able to maybe not everything they believe, because I'm sure with a lot of things you could just say like I defer to the consensus. But if it's like an idea you hold very strongly and you can't defend it, then that looks kind of silly.
Yeah. Also, this isn't exactly like a brand new insight, but that doesn't make it wrong. I mean, yeah, no, I agree with her that that's probably a good idea.
Sure.
But also, Dr. Tapioca Weasel just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. They went to Binge Thinker, Shauna Davis, Evan Roderick, James Leeson, and Clifford Reynolds. So let's take drinks. 5 drinks. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, welcome everybody to the channel memberships. Make sure that if you are a channel member already, you send a bunch of tetrapod emojis, which I'm noticing that a bunch of people are doing, so thank you very much. Also, I want to say, if you have Discord and you are a channel member, make sure you link your Discord to the YouTube account for which you have the membership to this channel. And that should add you automatically to the members and, sorry about that little cough, members and patrons only Discord server, which is where I hang out a lot with my members and patrons. It's a pretty easy way to get access to me to ask questions, get sneak peeks at what's coming up soon. Also, we do occasional watch parties. There's a bunch of different channels in there. We even have a sports ball channel for those of you who like sports balls. And one of the only formal rules of the Discord is that you don't ever tag me in the sports ball channel. Ever. That right there is an anarchy of sports ball, I think, because I've never been in there, so I don't actually know what happens in there. But never tag me there. Anyway, TD Lane for $2 says, we're going to need a stronger drink with a drink emoji. Jaws was a great movie. Because that's a Jaws reference, Jackson.
It was very prescient. I like that the movie, one of the main ideas is that, like, the city ignores the scientists because kids are on spring break or whatever.
Yeah, the tourist season is coming up, and that's where they make their money.
That's what it is. Yeah.
We can't listen to the scientists. It's like
we can't shut down the beach because we have tourists. Yeah.
Where have I heard this before? Oh, right, everywhere. Anytime anyone's like, "Hey guys, this is a really bad idea," and then someone's like, "Yeah, but I need to make money right now."
Glances at COVID.
Yeah. Spinny asks, "What if it's about cheerleading?" I don't care. Don't tag me in the sports ball channel. The Fearmonger official says, don't tempt me now. I have a strong desire to tag you in the sports ball channel. I mean, look, it's a great way to get kicked off the server. I'll just say that. And also, Jake Nelson for $5 says, Dr. Tapioca Weasel, my liver hates you, but you're still cool. Well, there you go. All right, here we go.
You fill in the blank questions. An opinion. There's nothing wrong with having an opinion. That's fine. But my opinion doesn't make it so. I found out today that they found out that many of the clades of dinosaurian reptiles started going extinct long before that meteorite hit the Earth.
No, okay. All right,
well,
actually, I can speak a little bit to this.
Yeah, lots of dinosaurs did go extinct before the end Cretaceous.
So there is a bit of debate among paleontologists regarding dinosaur biodiversity prior to the end Cretaceous extinction. There were some hypotheses that obviously, the meteor struck, as well as the volcanoes acting, but there was some argument as to whether maybe some dinosaurs were already kind of going extinct, so this was sort of the final nail in the coffin for dinosaurs. But from what I have seen, that doesn't appear to be the case. There was actually like a radiation of ceratopsians.
Yes, there's
in
the major
North America.
Yeah, the major ceratopsian radiation in North America. Well, or I suppose in Laramidia. Since, whatever. That's just what we're calling
what we
North
now
America.
Consider North America.
Right, yeah, that was a late
there was
Cretaceous.
also like a radiation of, I think, hadrosaurs in Asia around the same time. So, like, while there's nothing, like, inherently bad about that hypothesis, it doesn't seem to be supported. Now, there are always species going extinct.
Yes.
But they're also being replaced by new species, right? And so the question is, so there's always a background rate of extinction. The question is it higher or lower than normal, right? And it doesn't seem that the rate of extinction at that time was higher than normal, is the point.
Yeah. All right, Carrie Bronson, who's been a member for 22 months, wow, and is at the amniote level, says, I've always lived by the philosophy of those whose job it is to know the right answer agree on this, so I will accept it as right. Also, Mothra emoji. So we will take a drink for Mothra, because the queen of the monsters deserves a drink. But also, yeah, look, that's not a bad, heuristic, right? You do not have the time, even in some cases, the capacity, or even just the inclination to become an expert on all the things, right? It's just not going to happen. You're not going to live long enough. So, generally speaking, if you cannot become an expert, it is reasonable to defer to the opinion of the experts on a matter. And if essentially all of them have the same conclusion, it's not a bad idea to just accept that conclusion. Now, you can have like a particular area that you really focus on, and that's where you can disagree with the experts, and maybe you have actual good reasons to, and maybe you'll end up being right. Like, I'm still very proud of the fact that when the Oculodentavis paper came out, and they were like, this is the smallest dinosaur ever, and I was just like, that seems like a lizard. And then it turns out, yeah, it was a lizard. Like, yeah, that was me taking a stance against basically all the experts who looked at the fossil, who at that point were all saying it was a dinosaur, and I was like, nah, not buying it. And yeah, turns out I was right. But that's because this is one of the few areas where I've made it my business to actually know enough that I can disagree with the experts and maybe be right. I can't do that in most areas of my life. Also,
surely
Too Young to Feel This Old has gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships, going to Raziel Faustus, Baron Salis, Bob Knob, Big Thank You Flying Wayne, and Timothy Zwitan. So we will take 5 drinks, and also everybody get your emojis in, the tetrapod emojis. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we are. Thank you very much. Oh, goodness, this is getting to be a little... I might have to get a new drink before the actual break. Jackson, you might have to engage the audience. I'm quickly dwindling on this particular vodka cola.
I'll distract them with my juggling.
You'd have to go on camera for that.
Okay, I won't distract them with my juggling.
Yes.
And about 8 years ago, all the paleontologists in the world got together and voted that it was a meteor. That's
No! There was
Hold
never
on.
a vote for the meteor. I'm taking a drink. Go ahead, Jackson.
Also, the meteor hypothesis wasn't this like 2012 or 13, something like that?
I mean, the meteor hypothesis was proposed long before that. And-
Right. I mean, like the meteor hypothesis has been around since the 80s, but I'm saying this video is like,
Oh, yeah. This
2012 or
is... Yeah, he's
2013, right?
decades off, at best.
yeah, it's just it's completely wrong.
Yeah. No, this is on a similar level to when Stephen Meyer was like, and then mammals don't appear until the Eocene, and I'm like, excuse me, did you forget about the Jurassic when they actually appeared?
The funny thing is, so I'll give you a teensy weensy spoiler.
Ooh.
Or a video not on my channel, on somebody else's, on a much larger channel than mine. So the response,
Drink from Mothra though. Sorry.
the response, from Gunter Beckley when Meyer said that was, oh, the evolutionists are just trying to score points on Meyer because he's, he just a simple slip of the tongue. What he meant to say was crown mammals didn't appear until the Eocene, which is
No!
also dumb.
That's still
and
the Jurassic.
wrong.
That's what I meant when I said the Jurassic. That's when crown mammals appear.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
It's like there are, and the funny thing is, you can find crown mammals from a bunch of different orders in the Paleocene, the epoch right before the Eocene. Like you can find early primates, early elephants, early like artiodactyls, early perissodactyl. It's like
Yeah.
you didn't even try, dude. You did not even try.
That's really rough. Okay, so a couple things. Savage Cobra, really official, says AIG is a bag of duplicitous, inane, creationist, cacistocratic scammers, and then points out, despite the fact that, in fact, my knowledge of Greek does cover this etymology, that cacistocracy means government by the worst people. It's actually the evil people, but, we'll let it go. So we'll take a drink for that. Thank you very much. But also, Time Lord N89 has joined the channel at the level of Amniote. Welcome to the channel, Time Lord N89. Then those tetrapod emojis. All right, here we go.
Let's stop all these other 30 theories that exist on the extinction of the dinosaurs, and they all get together and vote.
That's literally not a thing that ever happened.
So the reason, in case anyone's wondering and doesn't know, the reason that the meteor hypothesis won out, which also there was a pretty significant volcanic event also at the end of the Cretaceous, but the reason that the meteor hypothesis won out is like, we found the meteor. We know where it hit. There were like maps, like geologic maps of the crater that were known in Mexico due to oil drilling from like decades before, and it happened to match the exact or the time that the meteor was thought to have hit that wiped out the dinosaurs. It correlated with the iridium layer. There were shock quartz and tektites and all sorts of other smoking gun geologic artifacts that indicated this was a meteor that struck the Earth. And now of course, not at the time that this video is made, but in the past few years, actually a site has been unearthed in, I think it's North Dakota. It's called the Tanis site, where tektites from the meteor. So these are like glass spherules that rain down, which you can imagine like molten glass raining down. It's a pretty horrifying thought.
It's like a shotgun blast across the whole planet.
Yeah. And
pretty terrible.
They've actually found fish with these tektites like embedded in their gills, right? They died as a direct result of the meteor.
So cool,
Pretty
but on the
crazy.
other hand, it's so like, oh my, that sounds terrible.
Higher, like a continent away,
Yeah.
right? They're dying of like molten glass falling out of the sky. Yeah, horrifying.
Yeah, not a good day to be around. I know. I was there. I was there. I was there on the day that the meteor hit. It's like from the Lord of the Rings. I was there on Mount Doom.
Okay, remember when we voted Pluto out of the solar system?
Yeah, that's because that was a definition about a human-created category of planet. You can vote on whether or not you're going to accept something into a category by having the human-defined category get a more distinct definition. No one votes on what caused the dinosaur extinction, because guess what? Dinosaur extinction wasn't invented by humans. It was observed by them. It was noted by them.
This is kind of like saying, oh, this population was voted out of a species. Well, no, it just got absorbed into a species.
Right.
It's just considered not distinct enough to warrant its own species. Like and I'm sure that's the problem with delineating planets from like moons and stuff, is like what's the size and the orbit and all that sort of stuff. And it's like it's a matter of scale,
right,
not of type, right? So.
Yeah, Pluto didn't change.
Right.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, all astronomers in the world got together. Probably
No, just like the one group that's in charge of the body that governs astronomical terms. That's it. It's not all of them.
Was wrong in 1930, and Pluto always was a planetoid. Just look at the elliptical orbit, and it's so inclined. It's different. It's probably just a planet. But us getting together and thinking about it and arguing about it, and it's almost like two people arguing on a park bench.
Carrie Bronson for $5 says that line is more directly a Warhammer 40,000 thing. I was there the day Horus slew the Emperor. I mean, that is a really good line. However, I believe that was that written before that line from Elrond? I don't know. That's a good question. They're both really good lines. And yeah, I was there the day. That's how the whole Horus Heresy series of books starts, right? Isn't that the first line of the first book of that whole thing? Which I remember originally was going to be like a trilogy. And my goodness, what are we, like 40 books in, and it still has not finished? Sorry, Jackson, you were going to say something.
No. Bad Jackson said it's like people arguing on a park bench, and I was going to say yes. Famously, two random strangers on a park bench like bring tektites and shock quartz, and just happen to like meet each other and argue about the end of the dinosaurs.
I mean, personally, when I sit on park benches, I like to also bring up Brachia, but that's just me. All right, here we go. Eventually, we're going to get to stars this time. I think, maybe.
Allegedly.
That they think that the nature of the universe shifts back and forth depending on who's winning the puny argument.
Now, take a drink. That's just dumb. That's just Charles Jackson not understanding the first thing about how things like, humans work, or science, or anything. It's an incredibly dumb statement. We're just taking a drink. Discussions about how we ought best to talk about nature is not the same thing as deciding by committee how nature works.
Do you think Pluto cares?
No, that's the whole point.
No one's saying it does.
Yeah, but the problem is we need a consistent definition of planet, and if we go with one that includes Pluto, then suddenly the solar system goes from having 9 planets to having like 59 planets, which seems inconvenient for kids in school.
So, like, Dapper, I turn to quiz you. What is like the ultimate point of doing science? What is the goal of having knowledge? What is the point?
I mean, generally, if you're one of the people who thinks that science ought to have practical applications, it's to better be able to predict the future working of experiments.
Right. Predictability, right? And researchers don't just come up with these things because they're bored and they have nothing to do. Well, maybe some of them do. But typically, the reason is you want to have a measure of predictability, right, in the universe. You want to have a set of ideas which you can apply consistently in different situations and get rigorous results, right? That's the whole point. And the fact that he's acting like maybe he doesn't understand that. Maybe he doesn't get that. I don't know.
I mean,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Based on this, he seems like essentially like one of the worst science illiterates I've ever come across. I'm not
Are
kidding.
you telling me that you think that frog cares whether it's in Rana pipiens or a different species? Yes, it does. It feels personally slighted if it gets moved to a new species.
Goop23 for $2 says, does he think science is prescriptive? He seems to. Yeah, he does seem to. That does seem to be what like the only conclusion can be. Which, like I said, this right here is evidence of a profound level of scientific illiteracy. Dr. Tapioca Weasel for $2 says, how many more memberships for the next emoji? Which is a terrific question. So I believe it is... Okay, so I don't want to get in trouble, because last time I did this, before I could actually get the next emoji out, my number went down. So let me actually just double check what it is currently, with the caveat that I don't have a guarantee whether or not the number will, like my total number of members will go down before I can get the next emoji in, because I don't currently have one ready. I would need to prepare one. So I'm currently on my channel dashboard. I'm checking the memberships. Total members right now is listed at 206, but that is not including, I believe, the new ones. Or, no, it's going to be including some of them. But let me take a look. I'm going to customize default perks, and I did notice Arachamian just gifted 5 more Dapper Dinosaur memberships, so we will be drinking for that. Let me check emojis. Let's see. It says I need 14 more, but I don't think that that's entirely accurate because I don't think it's keeping track in complete real time. We might actually be there, but at most 14 more is what I would probably say. But also, we have 5 more to drink for, so I want to point out who actually received the memberships, which is Trippy Liquids, Rusky Rumi, Telku. Oops, look, I'm sorry. I don't know what language that's from, and even if I did, it would probably be a language that I don't know how to pronounce very well. So, if you want to, send me a how to pronounce your name thing, preferably in the International Phonetic Alphabet, if it's an option. But also Crabman and Claire View. Welcome to the channel memberships, and here go 5 drinks, and then it might actually just be time for an early break so I can get myself another beverage because we just got 5 more memberships. So first, here's the first 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Which, yes, did indeed empty my drink. So we're going to have to take a quick early break. But I want to say that these were gifted by Savage Cobra Really Official and went to Eric 311, Vince O'Connor, Serge Heichko, Capital H, and Jérôme Allaire Jacquin. So welcome to the memberships, guys. We are going to go on a quick break so that I can refill this with more vodka cola so I can drink 5 more times so that we can then go ahead and continue on with the show. We will be back in just a few moments. All right, welcome back. Thank you for sticking with me. In fact, I think we actually gained some viewers over the course of the break. That's gunusual. So first, we're going to do our 5 drinks, 5 membership gifts from Savage Cobra, really official. So here we go. You guys are going to run me out of liquor, which, to be fair, this is the same vodka that I was drinking last Tuesday, so, like, you know, whatever. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. So, real quick, because it was a break, I want to say that I want to remind everyone that I have both a Patreon and a Amazon wishlist if you want to help out the channel. Also, there is a merch store linked in the description. I'm thinking about adding some pint glasses. I have at least one idea, but there will probably be other options in addition. But right now, I think we didn't even have pint glasses when I first created the store. So there's stuff like mugs, t-shirts, blankets, throw pillows, baby onesies, hoodies, all sorts of stuff like that. And also, Dr. Tapioca Weasel has just gifted another membership. Thank you very much. Which, by the way, clears us for the next feather video. So there is that. And also puts us less than $25 away from the next tutu video. Now, I want to let you know, the next Kent with Bent will be wearing his tutu, but you could make it so he has to wear the tutu the next time after that. So that's $24.01 away. So let's get back to Dr. Charles Jackson, the Bad Jackson, unless, Jackson, you have anything you want to add before we do?
Nope.
All right, here we go.
No, it just goes along being whatever Pluto is. And you know what? If you're trying to prove how the universe got here, you're too late. You're too late.
What?
It already happened.
If you want to demonstrate how something happened in the past, you're too late because it's already in the past. Well, that's incredibly dumb. Fun fact, we can investigate past events from the present. I don't know why this is something that needs to be said.
No.
But
No, you can't.
yeah, apparently
Denied.
not. Yeah, no, it's impossible. So yes, we already have the next feeder video, which actually I'm working on a feeder video right now. It's actually rendering as we speak over on my my render farm. The first 2 sections have rendered, which is the first 24,000 frames, and that took about 20 days worth of render time. Which, that's why I need a render farm, because every animated video I do requires like over a day worth of render time. Or not over a day, sorry, over a month. So, yeah. Here we go.
It's never, ever, it's a sin in science to make it the job of science to prove that you're right.
What?
What do you mean? They're not trying to prove that they're right. They're just they're providing evidence for a hypothesis.
I don't know what a sin would be in the context of science. No one's trying to prove anything in science, and yet providing evidence for a thing is not bad. That's sort of most of the point of science.
Unless it's like a physics thing, maybe, because it involves math, I guess. That would be the only way I could possibly think.
Maybe. That was incomprehensible. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we're supposed to try to prove the null hypothesis now, aren't we?
No, we're not supposed to prove anything.
No. What? No, that's not... No, the null... You either accept or reject the null hypothesis based on the data that you have. You form a null and an alternative hypothesis, and then when you do your statistical analysis of your results, then you can either accept or reject your null. But you don't try to prove the null.
Right.
What does that even mean?
I don't even know.
You try to prove that there's like no correlation in your data set? Like, what?
Uh-oh, Jackson. I think someone's onto you. Jake Nelson, for $10, says, Hans Wormhat equals Jackson Wheat plus pitch shift and the most epic trolling ever. Jackson, are you in fact the alter ego of Hans Wormhat?
I don't know.
Do you know who that is?
No, I don't know.
So he's basically a conspiracy theorist who thinks that essentially all animals that don't live where he does are fake. They're either CGI or they're humans in costumes.
I could believe that. You
So,
know,
like-
I have never seen a sea cucumber. Oh, wait, yeah, I have. I have to think of a different one.
So, like, he thinks that all the apes in all the zoos are just people in costumes, and he thinks, like, meerkats are just, like, CGI, or sometimes they're other animals wearing costumes. It's one of the crazier things that has ever occurred in the history of humanity is Hans Wormhat's YouTube channel. I would cover it, except most of it would just be me saying things like, no, gorillas are real.
So this guy really believes that any animal he can't see just isn't real.
Yeah. It's just
So he's like Robert Byers. But
yes.
worse, even. Is it possible to be worse?
It is, because Hans Wormhat is in fact worse. Also, Jack of Hearts for £2 says, Dapper, stop sinning in science, TM. Okay, I'll try to stop sinning. It'll be difficult, but I'll try.
You just want to sin. You love to sin.
TD Lane for
Have
$5.
you ever lied?
Thanks, Ray.
Sorry.
TD Lane for $5 says, I have felt a great disturbance in the force. Thousands of historians face-palming at once. Seriously, that's as dumb as AIG is a bag of phallic objects. We'll take a drink for that. Thank you very much, TD.
I found a Coke can.
Which, by the way, puts
It
us
must have evolved.
just under $7 away from Bent wearing a tutu in not just the next Camp with Bent, but the one after.
You see, you're not supposed to try to prove what's right, that you're right. You're supposed to find out what's true. That's it.
I mean, yeah.
I guess. But if you currently think you're right, then investigating that is going to be part of it, right? Like, science tries to be as little biased as possible, but everyone has a bias. Everyone wants to be right.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to show that the other guy's wrong. Oh yeah, Alex Markle also says that Hans is a transvestigator. Yeah, he is. He's one of those people who thinks that basically every celebrity is trans. For some reason.
I mean, good for them, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where, like, first, no, I'm pretty sure not all of them are trans. And second, if they were, then what? What do you do with this information? Just go, oh, okay.
Scarlett Johansson is still hot. What are you going to do about it?
I guess deal with the fact that now you're attracted to a trans person despite your extreme, let's say bigotry against the LGBTQ community. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Hans.
The only important thing in science. It's why I got into science.
We're just going to take a drink for Charles Jackson, thinking he's a part of the scientific community. The man who might possibly be the least scientifically literate person I've encountered. And I'm concluding like Kent Hovind. DM for $6.99 says, is this the correct amount on under $7? I believe it's slightly more, but you know what? I'm going to do the math real quick and we'll see what happens. It was in fact 38 cents too much. But there you go, guys. We just cracked the next tutu video.
Woo!
All right. So now I have to find out how much it'll take for me to wear a tutu next time. I have done that, actually. There is a video series, or at least one video in which I'm wearing a tutu.
Said that during a debate between me and 3 biology evolution professors at
my
Greencastle,
shower,
Indiana,
because
at
they were
DePaul
shampoo
University.
bottles.
Yeah, basically. I'm not so sure that, because the story hasn't been clear enough for me to say, nah, that's just not a thing that happened.
And they all three
Well, Kenneth Miller did debate like 2 creationists at once one time, so, not impossible.
I mean, yeah.
And in fairness, the 2 of us have debated a bunch of creationists, so.
Well, I don't know if I'd count those as debates, though.
That's true. That's fair. Yeah.
Which also we got to get with Jeremy Spry, who, if you didn't see it, Jackson and I talked to him on this past Saturday, and figure out when he wants to do an Age of the Earth discussion, because I think that would be fascinating. Because I'm really curious what he's going to come up with for young Earth evidence of just the age of the Earth. So like no biology necessarily. We don't really care about common ancestry for the purpose of this. We don't care about abiogenesis for the purpose of this. It's just how old physically is this ball of rock we're all spinning around on.
I'm very excited because that means I get to talk about index fossils.
Yay!
And I like index fossils.
You
don't need to talk about either evolution or radiometric dating for index fossils to show that the Earth is old.
This is true.
about fell out of their seat because I said science was a search for the truth. They went, no, 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 no. And one of them spokesman said, it's not a search for the truth. It's a discussion.
Okay, in fairness, okay, so he's said this story before, and to like very briefly reprise what we said last time is like, I mean, sort of like, I mean, they're searching for a lowercase t truth, not capital T truth, and Charles Jackson being Charles Jackson probably doesn't realize that. Like, science is not about absolute statements of how the universe works. Science is about forming tentative conclusions, and so the scientists aren't wrong when they say it's not a search for capital T truth. It's it's a discussion about trying to figure out lowercase t truth.
I don't know, Jackson. That's a whole lot of unwelcome nuance.
I mean, to a creationist, I would imagine so.
Oh, in case you're wondering, yeah, unwelcome nuance is a little bit of a meme here on the channel. Ever since I made a community post saying, basically, like, positively calling out Rebecca from Bread of Life for writing a whole thing about how she's a LGBTQ affirming Christian and you should be one too, assuming you're a Christian. And then someone came into my comments like, I'm here to look for reasons to hate creationists. I'd like to, if we could just focus on that. And I'm like, no. He's like, well, that's disappointing. That's unwelcome nuance. Like, oh, okay. Sorry. But no, this is not a channel that's here to give you new reasons to hate an entire group of people. I don't hate young Earth creation. Right. Not as a group. Yeah. There are individuals whom I have very negative opinions of. But it's not the whole group. There's a lot of young Earth creationists I'm rather fond of. But also, Jake Nelson just gifted 1 Dapper Dinosaur membership, and it went to April Van Ryn. So everybody get those tetrapod emojis in, and we're going to take a drink. All right, here we go. We're, what is this, like 4 or 5 minutes in, and we haven't heard a single thing about stars.
Like that was smart. Yeah. I'm sorry. I got into science to find out how things work, how the world works, how the universe is, how things do what they do, and got here. And
so that you didn't get into science, but whatever.
The only thing that matters is the truth in science. Our other things are fun and interesting. That's okay. It's kind of cool to have great ideas for heuristic value or just fun thinking. Opinions. Look, without opinions...
Do any scientists work just because they're trying to form like cool opinions? Do you get like money from the National Science Foundation to just have cool opinions?
You might be from certain think tanks. Like maybe politically motivated think tanks.
But from like... I mean, possibly, yes. However, I don't think the federal government's going to fund your research if you're like, I'm going to develop some cool opinions.
Yeah, no,
they're doing research.
Not.
Nah,
no, they're not. Which actually reminds me, I hate the trope of like just picking apart something that was funded federally as research, despite like as like a waste of government spending, despite like what a tiny fraction primary research funding is of the federal budget. Plus, it almost always betrays a complete lack of understanding of the whole point of any of the research. Like, why are we counting krill populations? Like, I don't know, because maybe that's the base of the food chain in the ocean, which supports things like commercial fishing. Maybe. Or maybe it's because people really like to count krill. Yeah, you did, didn't you?
It's me. I like to count krill.
Jackson just gets a cup of ocean water and is like, oh my god, there's going to be so many krill.
2, 3. Oh, crap. 1, 2.
All right, here we go.
Imagination. You know, Einstein was very big on imagination, too. We would never advance. But after all of our stories are done, at the end of the day, Louis Pasteur said, do not put forth anything that cannot be proven by experimentation. Without observations and the scientific method, we just have opinions, and that's okay. But don't tell people that if you don't have my opinion, you must be wrong, or you must be stupid, or you must be against science.
I would also disagree with that. There are some, I don't know. I think a lot of studies are like nowadays are like meta studies where you aren't the one doing the research. You're like built. Now, obviously, someone else did the like experiment or observation, whatever. But like, you're just the one assessing the research, right? And you're drawing conclusions about their conclusions. So I don't think it's correct to say all science can only be like verified experimentally.
That's true,
right?
Although at that point you're sort of doing like you said, like a meta study. You're doing a meta experiment. You're experimenting on the experiments.
Yeah.
Eric Hamin for $10 says Counting Krill, a Counting Crows cover band. I mean, that could be a pretty good name for a Counting Crows cover band that only plays on the ocean. It's like their shtick. Like if you want to have a land-based concert, they have to be like offshore on a platform on the beach, like just below the low tide mark, and then you can have a concert where everyone else is standing on land. Yeah, or they could do the Pirates of the Caribbean trick where Davy Jones is like stands in a bucket of water on a sandbar. They could do that.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
It was a clever.
I like that they thought of that.
Yeah, me too. It was like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's a fun little thing. Anyway, here we go.
I'll tell you how many times, as a biblical young Earth creationist, a scientist with 4.5 degrees, I do it.
What's 4.5 degrees?
How does one have half a degree?
Is it
like you didn't finish the courses? What is
yeah,
that
like maybe you have like half the credit hours that you need to graduate with this extra degree. I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, Hank says, for $5 dues, says, AIG are a teeming satchel of trouser serpents, as my nana would say. Very nice. We'll take a drink for that. Okay. And yeah, that does... Thank you very much. So, here we go. More Jackson.
4.5.
Bad Jackson.
That I've been told I'm against science. I love science. Science is my entire life's work.
Oh, okay, first of all, that's obviously not true, because as we've seen right now in this, he doesn't know the first thing about science, because he thinks things like arguing about whether or not it's a good idea to classify Pluto as a planet actually means that people are trying to like change whether or not it's physically a planet in some way, like the actual physical status of this. Or he thinks that people coming to a consensus in some kind of a convention is voting on the truth of a matter, which none of that is what that is. He's shown almost incomprehensible levels of scientific illiteracy here. And if you look back at previous videos of this, we're not saying he's wrong because he disagrees with the consensus. We're pointing out that he's wrong because the consensus is actually based on real evidence, and he's just ignoring it, or in some cases lying about it. Also, Southern Sal, aka SHGH, has been a member for 4 months at the level of Amniote and does not send a message, so thank you very much for being a member, Southern Sal. T Lane for $2 says 4.5 degrees is in stupid, it seems. Followed up by a Godzilla emoji, so we'll take a drink for that. Skeptics and Scoundrels for $5 says maybe the half degree is from a real university he was kicked out of, and the other 4 came from a diploma mill. Yeah, that's a distinct possibility. It does seem. Yeah. Thank you very much. All right, here we go. Where's my mouse? I keep losing my mouse. For some reason, I can't find my mouse today.
I just have a different scientific position than most of the people in science, but...
Yeah, but it's demonstrably wrong, which is why they don't share your scientific opinion, right? You can say, oh, I'm a flat earther. I just have a different scientific opinion than most cartographers. True, you do. It's a wrong one, and it's demonstrably wrong, and it's easily demonstrably wrong, and we've known it's wrong for a very long time. That doesn't really help.
Well, there was a time when if I didn't believe in the phlogiston theory, or maybe even flat Earth, certainly if I didn't...
Hey, thanks for using my exact same example.
believe in geocentrism, I'd have been in the minority too. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. But then what you would do is you would find the better evidence, and then you would become the consensus. But that's not what you're doing. Instead, you're just ignoring the evidence. That's the difference, right? So when, like, Eratosthenes goes around measuring the size of the planet, or when Copernicus goes around trying to figure out a simpler way to do math based on heliocentrism to predict retrograde orbits, or when experimenters are, like, discovering the oxygen theory of fire, or they're going around finding the microbes that lead to the germ theory of disease, right? These are people who are not ignoring the current evidence, but they're bringing to light new evidence and incorporating new evidence into their new ideas, and then showing why the previous ideas don't fit with the new evidence. Charles Jackson is doing the opposite. He's taking old ideas, ignoring evidence, failing to bring new evidence, lying about what evidence he bothers to talk about, and then saying, guys, I'm just like Copernicus. No, you're not. You're basically the opposite of Copernicus. You are exactly the same. as all those clergymen penning treatises against heliocentrism on the grounds of things like, well, God clearly created us as the center of the universe, and even Aristotle knew this, and why would you ever deviate from this? This is what we have been believing for thousands of years. That's you. You're in that category. But you're in that category like a century after it's reasonable to be in that category. Okay.
I don't mind being in the minority, but I'm in a thinking minority. I can't prove everything that I say is true, but neither can other people. But the majority gets to write the textbooks, I guess. Let's go on.
I do like that we have a slide here that actually does have something to do with stars, because remember, this is called The Problems with Stellar Evolution, and we're like halfway through today's show, and we have not gotten to any of that.
Okay.
Do you guys want a demonstration of like how bad Charles Jackson is at science? I highly recommend his talk with Dan Stern Cardinal.
Yeah, I also recommend that. It's on the Creation Myths channel. If anyone wants to link that, please do. My moderators, my moderators all have the ability to link that.
Because my goodness, is Charles Jackson bad at science?
It really is stunning just how bad one man can be at the thing that he proclaims to love so much.
Let's take a look here. Now, we're going to talk about stellar evolution today.
Yay.
Stellar evolution.
Dr. Tapioca says, what is his degree in? Education.
Well, his doctorate is in education. I don't know what the other ones are in.
Yeah.
They also might be in education, but not sure.
Fair enough. Oh, yeah, Goop23 points out, take a drink for him being right. He can't prove what he's saying. Fair enough. That's true. We'll take a drink for it. Okay.
And stars are categorized according to their luminosity and their color, their brightness and their color. And
so those things are intimately related. But he's not wrong. Like, bluer stars are brighter in terms of their intrinsic luminosity, and redder stars are darker in terms of their intrinsic luminosity. At least in the main sequence. So, yeah.
And we, through the entire electromagnetic spectrum of the visible anyway, we classify stars as type O, B, A, F, G, K, and M, and we memorize that by saying, "Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me."
All of that is true. We will take a drink. Also, Jake Nelson for $5 says, Jackson Wheat equals not Hans Wormhat, not refuted. Facts. It's true. No one has refuted that Jackson Wheat may or may not be Hans Wormhat. Because, I mean, Jackson Wheat would say he's not, but that's exactly what Hans Wormhat would say if he were pretending to be Jackson Wheat. So, or vice versa.
Exactly. I can't argue against this, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right.
Or if you're a girl, you say, "Oh, be a fine guy, kiss me." And that's the way all astronomers remember this. But if you actually plot, and this is called a Hertzsprung-Russell diagram or an HR diagram, if you plot the luminosity of the star versus its color index, you actually get sort of a curve, a significant curve, and this is called the main sequence. And we call these main sequence stars. Now, that's observations and calculations, and it's manipulating of the data into various ways of presenting it. But then somebody
By the way, this is all basically true. That is a fact. If you plot out most stars, most of them fall into this particular, mostly a line. It's pretty linear, but this one group called the main sequence, where their color and their absolute luminosity is directly tied together. We'll take a drink for it.
decided, okay, that means that the blue ones are the young stars and the red ones are the old stars, and then they lined it all up in this thing about the life story of a star.
Okay. Yeah, as Dr. Tapioca Weasel says, drink. Yeah, we're gonna take a drink and get into why this is. I understand where he's getting this from, but also it's incredibly dumb and very, very misleading the way he's talking. Okay, so it is generally true that blue stars are young stars, but that's because blue stars don't last very long. So what happens is stars run through their fusible fuel over their lifetime, right? So when a star starts out, brand new star, it has a finite amount of matter that it can use to fuel nuclear fission in its core. Now, you might think that the more it has, the longer it can last, but it turns out that the more massive a star is, the more quickly it goes through its fuel. And it actually, the rate of increase in fuel consumption increases faster than the rate of just adding mass. So the more fuel you have, ironically, the less you last because the faster you go through it. Which means that the heaviest stars are the shortest lived. Now, on the other hand, the coolest stars, because they have extremely low rates of fusion comparably, despite having less fuel, last longer. You can actually just look at the rate of energy output of a star, which is going to more or less correspond directly to the rate of fusion, and then figure out, okay, how massive is it? How fast is it going through the fuel? How long can the star last? Compare it to blue stars to red stars. You will find that red stars simply can physically last longer. Okay, so that means if you have a collection of stars, on average, if you have essentially randomly aged stars within the lifetime of the stars, red stars are going to end up, on average, being older. But it doesn't mean that you can't have a brand new red star. You absolutely can. We have places in the universe where we can look at brand new cool stars. They're in various stellar nurseries that, yes, do also form high mass blue stars, but there are plenty of relatively low mass, very young red stars. Stars don't go from being blue and hot and young to being cool and red M stars. You don't travel from O all the way down to M on the main sequence. Stars will start off as non-main sequence stars of a given mass. They will move into the main sequence. They will spend the majority of their life in roughly the same spot in the main sequence, and then they will exit the main sequence to become some kind of like red giant, red hypergiant, eventually some kind of stellar remnant like a white dwarf or a neutron star or a black hole. They do not simply evolve from O to B to all the way down to M. We're not going to go through the whole thing. So yeah, this is incredibly dumb. And me having to explain this because of how badly Dr. Jackson here botched it makes me want to take another drink. So I'm just going to do it. You can't stop me. Mostly because I'm in charge of the drink counter. I don't know if you guys know that. I can just set it to anything I want. So, all right, Jackson, you have anything? Good, Jackson, you have anything to add?
Nope.
Okay.
When maybe the red star started out red.
Yes, they did. Everyone knows that. That's not a controversial statement. I'm taking another. I just can't with this stuff right now. It's Charles Jackson is going to really piss me off on this one. I can tell. Liz D says, "Why only white dwarfs? That's racist." So actually, interestingly enough, white dwarfs will eventually turn into what's called black dwarfs, where they are essentially at thermodynamic equilibrium with the surrounding universe. But they start off so hot that the amount of time it would take for a single white dwarf to turn into a black dwarf is longer than the current age of the universe. And they're called white dwarfs because their emission spectrum is very, very broad. They send off a lot of radiation and a lot of wavelengths. So if you look at one, which I have actually, physically, like the photons going from a white dwarf into my eyeball, they look kind of whitish. Savage Cobra, really official, says, AIG is a jumble of jaundice Johnsons, jam-packed in a jam sport. Very nice. Take a drink for that. All right, here we go. Yeah, brown dwarfs are also a different thing. They're not stellar remnants, so yeah. Also, sometimes red dwarfs, like M-type stars, are called red dwarfs. Basically, the term dwarf is a very confusing term in astronomy. It refers to a whole lot of things, and I really wish it didn't, because it gets confusing, but whatever.
Blue stars are never going to turn red. So they turned it into...
Yeah, generally speaking, yeah, until they exit the main sequence, yes, blue stars are going to stay blue. I love how he's like, how come they didn't think of this? When it's literally the mainstream position on all of this. This is on the same level as like, well, why didn't they think that maybe bears could be mammals? Everyone already knows they are. What are you talking about?
To a stellar evolution story, much like all those fossils they dig up, monkeys and people, and try to call them monkey people. That's next hour.
That's the one we already went over. We're not going over it again.
I'll show you that. That's a lot of fun, too. Now, they've taken the data and made up a story about it. The only thing that you really can get is what the data says. Now, let's take a look at the
Does
story.
he think inference is not a thing that you can do? Because that's kind of what it sounds like he's saying.
I mean, that is a big part of his shtick, is basically rejecting any kind of inference. So, yeah,
The
I think
video of the butler, starts in the living room and then ends on the other, and then like we have another camera that picks up on the other side of the kitchen. Well, you didn't see him in the kitchen. Okay, but he had to pass through the kitchen to go to the other side.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't see him in the kitchen.
How do you know he didn't teleport? Yeah.
All we have is the data.
The Hertzsprung-Russell diagram is real, but does it say that stars evolve? Let's take a look.
No, not on its own. Oh my god, this is gonna kill me. I know I say that every once in a while, but this is really bad.
How many ever heard of the Drake equation?
Yeah, I've heard of the Drake equation. You know what? The creationists asked, so now I ask my audience. Okay, we're gonna start a poll. Here we go. Let's see. Have you heard of the Drake equation? I'm gonna go with before today, and I'm gonna go from have to had. I'm gonna go pluperfect with it. Yeah, take a look at that. We'll have yes, no, and turtle equation is better. There you go. That is our poll. Had you heard of the Drake equation before today? Because him telling you about the Drake equation now doesn't count, right? That's cheating. Okay. Now, Jackson, had you heard of the Drake equation before today?
Yes.
Okay. So even you, who is an admitted
even me
space guy.
Yeah.
Even though you live in space.
This is a biology thing too.
True, yeah.
My hot take is if there is life out there, it's almost certainly bacteria grade. Fight me.
I mean, no, I'm not going to fight you on that.
There we go. All right.
Because I don't really disagree. I don't think that in the entire universe, it's probably the only kind of life. It's probably almost certainly the most common kind.
Yeah, that's really, yeah.
Also, TD Lane.
If they're... Oh, you go ahead.
A TD Lane for $5 says, by rejecting inference, you effectively reject the scientific method. Stop being dumb, Charlie. And he sends a pelagic tunicate, which is just as smart as Bad Jackson is. In that, it dissolves its brain before it becomes an adult. Which, from what I can tell, is what Charles Jackson did before he started giving creationist lectures. He dissolved his brain.
Like a professor getting tenure.
No comment there.
Equation, that predicts, calculates the number of intelligent civilizations that should be in our galaxy. And it has...
I mean, yeah, it is the idea. Now, I don't know if Bad Jackson is going to say this or how he's going to say it. The problem is that we don't actually know the values for basically any of the terms. So, My Infinite Journey for $2 says, turtles! Which, I mean, yeah, who doesn't like turtles, right? Turtles are great. Okay, more about the Drake equation.
All of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I thought it was 7. No, it is 8. 8 different factors involved. Every single one of them is a guess.
Yes, that is correct. That's why we don't know the actual value.
Every single one.
Wait, hold on. Is he... What is he even saying here?
He's just saying that we have to guess at... Actually, I'm not positive that every single one is fair. I'm going to double check. So the fraction with planets... The rate of stellar formation in the galaxy isn't a guess. We don't know it down to like the exact number, but it's not a guess. The fraction of those stars which have planets isn't really a guess anymore. It was a guess. We now know that it's actually not far off from 1. And E, the average number of planets which can potentially support life per star that has planets, we don't know that. Basically, all the ones below that are, in fact, guesses. The first two, we actually have some reasonably good ways to estimate. Now, are they precise measurements? No, but we still have good ways to measure. So.
And it has all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I thought it was 7. No, it is 8. 8 different factors involved. Every single one of them is a guess. Every single one of them is a guess, and they multiply them all and put an equal sign next to it, and suddenly, ta-da, it's not a guess anymore.
No, that's not what anyone's doing. Oh my, taking a drink. For not understanding the point of the Drake equation. Okay, so the point of the Drake equation is that you're supposed to put in reasonable numbers. But yes, for many of these things, we have a very wide range of what is plausible. And the interesting thing is that basically everyone who puts in numbers that are within the plausible range for these values gets a number that is higher than what's observed, which is 1. We only observe one technological civilization. Jackson, I know you're not a space guy, but do you know which technological civilization we have been observing?
The human one?
Yes. Good job. You got it. Everybody,
yes.
Clap for Jackson. He figured it out. Yep.
I was scared there for a minute.
So the point of the Drake equation is basically it kind of helps set up ideas about like the Fermi paradox and life on other planets and whatnot. Which is to say that when you give reasonable numbers, some of which, like I said, especially the first two, we actually do have pretty well constrained guesses for. And by guesses, I really mean estimates for. But the other ones we don't. But anytime you put in something that seems plausible to most of the people in the field, you get numbers that are too high. Why is that? And then you can get into things like various answers for the Fermi paradox. Like maybe there's some kind of great filter. Maybe there's the rare earth hypothesis, which just says that, hey, some of those factors are actually far lower than you would otherwise think. There's a whole bunch of options. But no one is putting in those numbers, getting a result, and then saying, see, we now know how many technological civilizations are in the Milky Way because of what we did with the Drake equation. No one's doing that. No one's saying that answer that you get is anything other than a loose estimate.
You know, I don't mind the Drake equation. Drake himself said that the actual number of intelligent civilizations, advanced civilizations in our galaxy is somewhere between 1 and 1 million.
That seems reasonable.
Why didn't you say 0 to 1 million?
Well, because of humans. Because of humans.
I don't know. Bad Jackson is making the argument that we are not an advanced civilization.
Oh, that was a joke. I thought that was just him being an idiot. Oh, I'm going to take a drink for a joke. Yeah, I just thought, okay. I literally thought that was just him being an idiot. By the way, Vishanti wants to thank a mysterious benefactor for a wish list item and sends a emoji. Because I think there's a fair chance that the person who got her wish list item is from the channel and, watching like our Saturday streams and whatnot. I want to say thank you if you're watching this on her behalf, because very appreciated. She got some brand new cooling fans for her computer that totally did not take her 2.5 hours to install after she said BRB. That's not what happened. Anyway, here we go.
He assumes us, so we've actually got data. We have a data point for that one. So he can say 1 or more. Yeah. But he even says 1 to 1 million. All the rest of these things are guesses. And there's nothing wrong with guessing. It was Carl Sagan that...
I mean, like we said, many of them do actually have observed variables that we can use to estimate. But okay.
It said the life expectancy for a civilization once they invent radio technology is 200 years. After that, they'll blow themselves up in a nuclear war.
That sounds like a guess.
So we only have a 200-year shot at making contact with any of these civilizations, and somehow we better hear from them.
Oh, okay, hold on.
I guess they could only...
So Landon Knoll, who, by the way, knows far more about this than I do, says that all the Drake equation parameters have values with error bars whose error bars have less than 1 standard deviation range based on observational evidence. That's far better than I thought we were doing. So we'll take a drink for Charles Jackson being even worse at this than I thought. And also, thanks to our resident planetary scientist astronomer guy, Landon Knoll, for joining in, because he knows more than Jackson and I do combined. Also, Skeptics and Scoundrels has joined the channel at the tetrapod level. Thank you very much, Skeptics and Scoundrels. Everybody send in your tetrapod emojis to welcome Skeptics and Scoundrels. Jackson, I feel like you're about to say something.
In fairness, I'm a very low bar to clear, so...
Well, I wasn't going to say it. I was...
I'll say it's okay. I can make that joke.
Fair enough. All right, and with 61 votes, we're going to end the poll. And 66% of my viewers had in fact heard of the Drake equation. 22%, just whether or not they've heard of the Drake equation, say that the turtle equation is better. And only 11% of my viewers have not heard of the Drake equation. That is based on 61 votes. Oh, I said 66. I meant 65% for yes. Sorry about that. Yep. And Landon Knoll points out that he helps to work on refining the Drake equation parameter F sub p, which is the fraction of those stars, the fraction of stars which have planets. So yes. Now, Landon, I said that the numbers seem to be fairly close to 1. Is that a reasonable thing? Because it seems like basically anytime we could detect planets on stars, we end up doing it. It seems like planets are significantly more common than no planets. Even in multiple star systems, like we have binary stars, seems like there's still planets. So maybe I'm wrong about that, though. Here we go.
Within 200 light years. Well, okay, that's another topic. But this R here is the rate of star formation in our galaxy. And that's what this topic is tonight. Stellar formation. Can stars make themselves?
What? I hate that phrase. Can stars make themselves? Well, no, because that would presume that there was a star that made itself before it existed. What does that even mean? I'm taking a drink. The question is, can stars form naturally? That's how you say it. Except it doesn't sound as stupid that way.
It's also how they describe the Big Bang, is like, did the universe make itself?
Yeah.
No.
It's an intentional attempt to poison the well. You want the idea to sound stupid at the outset before you ever actually even get into what the idea entails. It's a slimy debate tactic. I really hate it.
Biblical young earth creation, of course, I think God made the stars.
Great. I don't care if you think God made the stars. It doesn't answer the question, do new stars form?
I think that's not unscientific, because if God actually did make the stars, then that would actually be a scientific fact.
No, it wouldn't until you could demonstrate it scientifically. That's part of the reason that science isn't just synonymous with truth, right? To be scientific, even if something is true, you have to be able to demonstrate it scientifically. So before we had the data that confirmed things like heliocentrism, even though it was true, it wasn't scientific because you hadn't done the work of science to do the thing. Currently undemonstrated ideas are not scientific no matter what their truth value is. Science is a process, and if you haven't followed it yet, then you haven't done science, whether you're right or wrong in your conclusion. That's just how it is.
And to eliminate God from the equation when you don't know is irrational thinking.
Okay, so now we get to talk about methodological naturalism in science. So, science, as a rule, does not allow for supernatural explanations because the point of science is an investigation of how the natural world operates naturally. That's the point of it. Even if some event were supernatural, it would be outside the scope of science, because that's not what science is for. Because remember when we talked about the whole point of science, essentially, comes down to being able to make predictions? Well, you can't do that with an omnipotent being poofing stars into existence. You can't make a prediction on the basis of that, so it's scientifically useless whether or not it's true. Jackson, got anything to add on that? I'm going to take that as a no, he does not.
No, I said no.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I'm not... Okay. I didn't have anything.
That's okay.
I mean, you can say, I don't like the idea of there being a supreme being. Fine, you can say that. But you can't...
That's true, you can say that. I'm going to take a drink for that being technically true. You can say you prefer there to be no supreme being. But also, I am about to be out of this drink too, so here's what we're going to do. Jackson, can you tell everyone a story about nudibranchs?
Story about nudibranchs.
Like, some kind of cool nudibranch you have at the aquarium, or some cool thing you learned about nudibranchs.
We don't have any nudibranchs at the aquarium.
Damn it, what do you have?
Well, we have lots of other marine invertebrates.
Do you have any crinoids?
We have other species of echinoderms.
God damn it, Jackson. Do you have flatworms? Acorn worms.
Not intentional ones. If they're in there, then they probably wrote in on the rock.
You have acorn worms?
I'm actually not aware of any aquaria that have acorn worms, but that would be cool.
Why don't you tell everyone what an acorn worm is while I go pour some more vodka and cola into this glass?
Okay.
Okay, I'll be right back, everybody. Go ahead, Jack.
So you guys know we're deuterostomes, right? So we form our anus before our mouth embryonically, right? Whereas like arthropods and cephalopods, most other invertebrates from their mouths first, and then their anus second. They're protostomes. Well, there's basically two groups within deuterostomia. Well, two extant groups. So there's the ambulacraria, echinoderms, and hemichordates. And then on the other side, you have your chordates, which is your lancelets, tunicates, and vertebrates. So within ambulacraria, again, you have your groups. You have echinoderms, which are like sea stars and sea cucumbers and urchins, and then you have your hemichordates, which is your acorn worms and their relatives. I think graptolites are also in that group, if I remember correctly. They're these weird fossil guys. They share a lot of genes in common with us, which is kind of interesting considering they're like little wormy dudes. They have like a little head. I mean, it's not really a head. I guess it kind of depends on how you define it, but they have like a little segmented region at their front, which is like their head. And I think they eat like detritus or something like that. Like they're active hunters. I don't know. It's been a while since I've read about acorn worms. I'll probably write something about them for the Ancestors' Tale series at some point. I hope that Dapper Harry's back.
I am back. So, did everyone learn about acorn worms?
Yeah, let's assume that they did.
Well, you did talk about it, right, Jackson? I can listen back. I can find out.
Oh, I briefly discussed acorn worms.
Did you talk about how like they're similar to chordates because they're in like hemichordata?
I did in fact say that. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, good. That was one of the big things I wanted you to get across. It's why I brought up acorn worms.
Yeah.
Although I still wish you had a nudibranch story.
Well, the only thing I know about nudibranchs sort of offhand is like a lot of them like eat jellyfish tentacles and absorb the cnidocytes and then incorporate it into their own skin, which is pretty whack.
Pretty awesome, yeah.
Which is like a lot of them are really colorful and stuff, but you also don't want to touch them because things that are colorful often mean they're very dangerous.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it's like every once in a while I see a picture of someone like handling a blue-ringed octopus, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah,
Please.
that was the last time they did that.
Please stop. Anyway, here we go. Here's more bad Jackson.
You can't just throw out the variable just because you think that. Well, anyway, there are all these variables here, and does this prove that there is 1 to a million civilizations? No, it just...
Actually, it kind of does, right? Because if all of the numbers can't get you past 1 million, and you know the minimum is 1 based on your actual observation of at least 1, then yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say prove, but it demonstrates it pretty conclusively. So I'm just going to take a drink for Charles Jackson not understanding, the basics of how math works. So, yeah.
Proves that there's 1. And Drake didn't say he knew, but people took
he did kind of know, though.
This and ran with it tremendously. Okay, let's take a look at this basic chart of the Big Bang. That's the Wilkerson microwave anisotropic probe. And they got this map of the universe that then was interpreted as time zones of the history of the universe. Quantum fluctuation creates the entire universe, including space, time, matter and energy, and there wasn't any of those, and then all of a sudden there was because of a quantum fluctuation. And then the inflationary period expands it all, where space actually stretched out at faster than the speed of light, and maybe a trillionth of a second, you've got the universe as the size of an orange, and then bang, it goes the rest of the way. And then all the light from the Big Bang explosion.
Remember that time he said he was going to talk about stellar evolution and not the Big Bang? Do you remember that? Oh, what are we talking about now? Right,
Bang.
the Big Bang. I'm just going to take a drink for Charles Jackson not even being able to be honest about the content of his own talk. It's like when Kent Hovind in his dissertation is like, here's my table of contents, and there's 16 chapters, and then he gives you 4. I'm taking a drink. This is just ridiculous.
The energy dies down and you have gas clouds, an afterglow pattern. A lot of people say, well, that could be where God said, let there be light. There are some similarities in the two stories, okay? But what does the data actually say?
The data is overwhelmingly in support of the Big Bang in the broad sense. There are details in the exact nature of what happened, the exact timing of various things, exactly how various things resulted in the universe that we see today. But by far, the overwhelming majority of the evidence is directly supporting the Big Bang idea. That's why it's the consensus. Because the thing is, Charles Jackson is right that being the consensus doesn't make something right. However, being in accord with all the available evidence tends to make something the consensus. So let's see. Christopher Canadatheus, there we go, member for 2 months at the amniote level, says AIG is a soggy sack of slippery snakes. Pelagic tunicate. Take a drink. Wait, Jackson, you don't have any pelagic tunicates at your aquarium, do you?
I don't have any tunicates.
Not even good God-fearing sessile tunicates?
No.
It's too bad.
I think they had some tunicates when I first started, but I don't know if they sent those. I think they may have sent those to another aquarium.
Did you know that their hearts switch directions every few minutes?
It's whack.
Yeah, and they have an outer casing of cellulose.
Yeah. I think you said that the other day when we were talking with Jeremy.
Oh. Well, either way, those things are still true, and they're still really cool, which is why I like tunicates
strange.
as a whole group. I just don't like the disgusting swimmy ones.
What do we actually see? And then, in the story, you have 400 million years while all that bright, glowing gas clouds went dark and then had to collect by gravity into new stars that had never existed before. There weren't stars before that. The first stars form after 400 million years of gas clouds collecting by gravity, and then we're off and running to 13.7 billion years later. So this is called the Dark Ages. But how did the universe get out of the Dark Ages is what we're talking about tonight. Here's
Gravitational collapse. That's the answer.
the cover of Discover magazine, and this is, let's see, I think I got the year there. Yes, 2002. The day the universe lit up. Scientists uncover the second...
Oh, hey, remind me, Jackson, what's the status of peer review at the Discover magazine?
Well, I'm sure they have an editor who makes sure all the words are spelled correctly, but beyond that, I don't think there really is one.
So is this the source that maybe he should be using when discussing things like stellar evolution or the Big Bang?
I would say probably not.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that it was as I thought it was.
Creation, 100 million years after the Big Bang. And then on the cover, they've got a picture of a nebula there, a modern...
Actually, it's a globular cluster, which, interestingly enough, is the kind of thing that results from star formation. We actually know how globular clusters get there.
star factory in the Large Magellanic Cloud.
Oh, he did point that out. Oh, goodness, now we're going to get nonsense about Tesla. Okay.
Okay, a modern star factory. Well, this is interesting. How do clouds of gas make stars? I want to bring this up. I like Nikola Tesla. He said, today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments. And they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality.
Okay, we're going to take a drink, and then I'm going to tell you about what things Nikola Tesla was saying this about. So here's our first our drink. Nikola Tesla didn't believe in electrons. I just want to put that out there. This is a man who was a contemporary of Einstein. Not only did he reject relativity entirely, he rejected electrons. He didn't think they existed. He was still pushing ether theory well into the 40s, the 1940s, or maybe it was the 30s. Nikola Tesla is not the man whose opinion on theoretical physics you should take seriously. Sure, he made very cool devices. One that I particularly appreciate is the purpose-built AC induction motor, so that you didn't have to keep using commutator arrays, which are gigantic pain in the ass. I know, having dealt with them. They're awful. So thanks, Tesla, for creating that. I really do genuinely appreciate it. And yeah, a bunch of people stole his patents, which wasn't cool, and he couldn't afford to sue them. But still, Nikola Tesla was a man who well into the 20th century was like, electrons? Nah, I don't buy it. I don't care what he had to say about physics. He was really bad at it. He was great at engineering. Really, really, really bad at physics. I'm taking a second drink for Nikola Tesla, because every time you see Nikola Tesla being brought up as some kind of expert on physics, you can guarantee that whatever is about to come next is complete and utter nonsense. Because that was what his opinions about physics generally were. Okay.
Tesla, invented remote control devices in
Yeah, he did kind of do that.
1893. Not that there was much to remote control, but
he remote controlled a boat, if memory serves. So there was that. I mean, not a full-size boat, but like a little toy boat.
Guy was a little ahead of his time. And, yeah, mathematical constructs that become complex, nested within nested equations until they're off and running and you've got the universe making itself because...
You know what's a fun thing about the equations of things like relativity and quantum mechanics, Jackson?
What is a fun thing?
They make spectacularly accurate predictions about future data.
I've heard that.
Yeah. And we're talking like significant figures, like coming out of your ears predictions.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you want a prediction down to like, picometer levels of precision with like 14 sig figs? Sure, we got that. Yes. Yeah, that's a thing we've got. Like, insulting modern physics because of its mathematical rigor might possibly be the stupidest take it is possible to have on physics. That mathematical rigor is the strong point about physics. It's why you should take physics seriously. These are people who can look at systems and come up with almost incomprehensibly precise and accurate predictions about what that system will do. And he's just going to throw it out because, but that's too much math. I don't like it. I'm just going to take a drink for Charles Jackson literally making the same argument as flat earthers, saying, well, math isn't reality, so I can't trust all this physics talk. Okay.
Dapper, big words, head hurty.
Seriously. But literally, this is just like Jeranism or the other flat earthers. This is literally one of their talking points. There's too many... there's too much math, too many equations. That's not reality. Oh, okay. And as Light Null points out, some predictions are up to 14 significant digits. 14! I'm used to like 3 or 4 on a good day. And they're like, no, we got 14 significant digits. That's crazy. I just hate this so much. And it really is. Like, if any of you consume, like, flat earth debunking content, which I do just for fun, right? You'll recognize that this is literally the same argument that all the flat earthers make. That's just math. That's not reality. You can't just take these ivory tower mathematics and say that it corresponds to reality. Yeah, you can. You can when it makes predictions about future data. TD Lane for $5 says, Charles Jackson doesn't understand how math works. It's like he never got past 7th grade and is incapable of understanding reality. Yeah, it is a lot like that. It's... I don't know if I can stress hard enough how utterly incompetent this man is at his job, which is basically to teach people about things. Normally, I think of like Matt with Matty as the tough week, right? Because it's usually Matt Powell or Raw Matt, and they're horrible people and they're extremely dumb. But like, I don't know. This is pushing it. We really are at flat Earth levels of scientific illiteracy.
You count.
Oh, and hey, Dr. Tapioca Weasel says, my advisor is at 18 digits with strontium clocks. 18 significant figures. That is maybe 19. That's absurd. I'm just taking a drink for congratulations to that guy because, my goodness. That is quite a lot.
Related it so equal signs don't always tell the truth just because you draw one, like in the Drake equation.
What does that even mean? Like, no one thinks that because you did math, that literally means that anything you did is true because you just did some math. It's all about the predictions and whatnot, and how accurate are they?
Equals 2 equals 5.
And yeah, and we don't
It's math. I'm right.
Oh, Soulcat says, how many Hovens are we up to? I think we might actually be over a Hovend. Like, this might be one of the first times we've actually gone over 1,000 millihovend. I'm not sure. Yeah, Savage Cobra really official says, he's pretty good at his job. His job is to misinform, not inform. Okay, I did not think about it that way, and by that standard, yeah, he actually is excellent at his job. Good point. Okay.
Okay, this is a standard textbook, Prentice Hall, a high school textbook on earth science. A nebula is a large amount of gas and dust spread out in an immense volume. That's true, you see them through telescopes. All stars begin their lives as parts of a nebula. How do we know that?
Oh, I know. It's because we can actually see protostars in these nebulae. So, what's a protostar? How do you tell if a star is a protostar? Well, it's actually not all that difficult. So we have models of stellar evolution that start with the gravitational collapse of a molecular cloud. Sorry, I'm trying to talk. Okay. So, what does a protostar look like in this context? Well, we get something that has a mass that is approaching that of being high enough to actually produce fusion, but it's not doing that. However, it is glowing significantly in the infrared because it is continuing to accrete material from the circumstellar disk that surrounds it, which will eventually get it to a size where it can actually initiate fusion. So when you see that, and we see all of those that we see are in these nebulae. So that's where stars come from. Now, you might say, well, we've never seen a nebula go from just a diffuse cloud of molecules and atoms to a protostar to a star all in one go. To which I say that's true, but we've also never seen a redwood go from a seed all the way to a giant several hundred meters tall tree all in one go. However, Jackson, how do you think redwoods come about? Think they grow from seeds?
No, actually, no one has ever seen a redwood be born.
Oh, wait, it was just pointed out that the drink counter is at 69, which is nice. No more drinks. No, that's not true. We might do drink.
Wait, elephants. No, it's elephants. That's their closest relative.
Oh, their closest elephant.
Of redwoods.
Okay. But yeah, see, here's the thing, right? Why do we think that redwoods grow from little seeds? Well, because we see that they produce seeds, and we know what seeds are, and we know the seeds can germinate, and we know that they grow, and we can see literally every stage from seed to giant tree, all present right now, and we can see them make small amounts of progress. So when you string all that together, you get a very detailed picture of the ontogenetic development of redwood trees. Similarly, when you have a model of stellar evolution, you find observations that correspond to your model, and you find every single stage of that model, and you can actually see progress being made slowly, which we actually can. We can actually see these processes in action. What's the only reasonable conclusion? Well, it's that your model's good. You got it. You figured it out. At least in the broad strokes. So, here we go.
Gravity can pull some of the gas and dust in the nebula together. The interacting cloud is then called a protostar. Okay, now we're telling a story because no one has ever seen this happen.
I mean, we're watching it happen right now. So even though the drink counter is pretty nice, taking a drink. So this is the thing, right? And we can actually make predictions. Like, okay, if stars... So first, we know, just based on very basic math, that blue stars can't last very long. Because we can tell how fast they're consuming fuel, and we can tell how much they have. So that's just, a simple rate calculation, right? You just do basic high school algebra, and you come up with a maximum age for really hot stars. We also know that stars, if they form naturally, have to form out of something. And what's available for stars to form out of? Well, basically nebulae. That's pretty much the only option that's available. They're probably not forming out of literal nothing. So there you go. Oh, Too Young to Feel This Old for $2 says, kiddos, say goodnight, Dapper. Good night, kiddos. I hope you have a wonderful night and that you sleep well and that there are no monsters. But remember, the monsters mostly come at night. Mostly.
How would you do that? What did they do to deserve that, Dapper?
I'm a giant jerk. There aren't any, except for the cops. Literally, I'm just going harder on cops because someone told me could I take it easy on cops. That's it.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, that's it. That's the only reason. Anyway, I just lost where I was.
Embarrassing.
I know, right? Oh, right. So nebulae. So that's basically the only option. So you take a look at these areas where you have stars with circumstellar disks, which is a big part of the whole star formation. They're glowing in the infrared. They are not glowing bright enough to be undergoing fusion, so we know they're still... We can watch them accrete. We can watch the solar winds blowing away from the circumstellar and planetary disks, which is another big part of the step. Like, we can watch all this happening. Also, when you look at these star-forming regions, they have an abundance of blue stars, which we know can't last very long, which means that these are relatively young areas, if in fact the universe is old. So, basically, if you say the universe is old, then it's hard to come to any other conclusion other than that this is how it works, and that we're watching it happen. The only way to contravene this is to demonstrate the universe isn't old, which he's not even starting. So, yeah.
It's a story. I'm not saying it's a stupid story or a bad story, even a wrong story, but it is a story.
I mean, if by story you mean a relation of a sequence of events, then yes. Personally, I feel like that's a fairly broad definition of story that's kind of useless, but whatever. Yes, it is relating a series of events. That is true. We'll take a drink for him being technically correct. The best kind of correct. Man, I need to rewatch Futurama. Futurama was such a great show.
It's so much less than a theory.
No, it's actually pretty much a theory because it's well accepted. It explains a large number of otherwise unrelated phenomena, and it's been rigorously tested many, many times. In fact, it's continually being tested. Every single time you point a telescope at, like, the Orion Nebula, you're conducting a little test of the idea about stellar formation. I don't know what to tell you.
As you'll see, because we actually know scientific fact, laws, and principles go against this being possible. Gravity cannot do this. We'll see.
I look forward to hearing why gravity can't make things pull together.
Isn't that a Kent Hovind argument?
It is. Also, I would like to point out that the basic thing that gravity does is pull things together. That's like the first thing you learn about it. It's pretty basic. What does gravity do? Oh, it pulls things together. Got it. Now, it's a little bit more complicated in this case because we do have to deal with things like hydrostatic equilibrium in molecular clouds. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Assuming we get to that.
Well, I mean, we won't tonight, but we will eventually. Unless...
I mean, assuming that, like, Charles Jackson ever brings it up.
Good point. Now, he is more likely to actually make good on his promises to talk about things than Kent is. Because unlike Kent, as far as I know, he's never written a book that was just missing 12 of the 16 chapters that were promised in the table of contents.
It's pretty amazing, not gonna lie.
It really
it's really
was
an accomplishment if you think about it.
When we were reading it on the channel, I kept pointing out like how many pages per chapter we could reasonably get at this point, and they kept shrinking and shrinking, and I was like, well, boys, we're down to like 0.02 pages per chapter. And then, of course, it just ends on chapter 4 with no conclusion and missing 12 of the chapters. Okay.
See why? A star is born when the contracting gas and dust become so hot that nuclear fusion starts.
It's not just the heat from that, it's also the pressure from the mass of the star. You can get something that's arbitrarily hot, but if it doesn't have enough pressure, you're probably not going to get fusion, so it's a little bit more complicated than that. Savage Cobra, really official, for $5, says AIG and Bad Jackson in particular are a bag of the habitat of Theridae. I'm not sure I'm familiar with that family. Jackson, are you familiar with that family? Pthiridae?
I'm sorry, wait, say it one more time?
Theridae, Pthiridae. Oh, wait, is that pubic lice? That's pubic lice.
Oh, I think
All
you're right.
Yeah, okay, we'll take a drink for that. Very nice. Very well done.
I think it's supposed to be PHTH.
PHTH?
Isn't it?
No, I don't think it is. No. No, it's not.
I'm thinking of lice.
You might be.
That's PHTHIRA.
Well, anyway.
IRAPTERA is.
We will be checking
lice.
with the spelling police later, who are far less likely to shoot your dog than the regular police.
Probably, possibly true.
All right, guys. Well, I want to say thank you.
There's no first H. Okay.
I knew it, and by knew it, I mean I started to Google it, and an H didn't come up there, so I figured that was probably the case. So, guys, I want to thank all of you very much for watching. I had a lot of fun. We're going to continue with this. We finally did get to star stuff. It took us more than an hour.
Woo.
Which is just crazy. Grace Bucket says gorilla pubic lice. I didn't think gorillas had separate pubic lice to their regular body lice.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Our body lice is not the same
do.
as our pubic lice.
But human pubic lice aren't just gorilla pubic lice. They're just gorilla. They're related to just gorilla lice generally.
A lot of times, like parasites will specialize on particular regions of an organism's body.
But have gorilla lice done that?
Have they done what? Have they
Specialize in particular areas of the gorilla body?
I mean, if we have if we have body and pubic lice, then they probably do also.
But we don't. We have head and pubic lice because there's no like
that's what it
good
is.
Continuous like full body hair that goes the whole way, which is why they've had to specialize.
I don't know. Somebody tell your audience to look it up.
Yeah, guys, look it up. Anyway, we are wrapping it up. So I'm going to take a look. Jackson, what do you have coming up? Tell us. It's probably all the same as Saturday, but people might have not watched that and might now be watching. So
eventually, I will put out the Ancestor's Tale in the next video.
Awesome.
I have time.
All right. Well, on this channel on Thursday, we are releasing the last video in the series about two old men who are both terrible human beings. Especially the one who used his military rank to coerce a female subordinate into dating him. Which, by the way, yeah, that's sexual harassment, guys. That's what that is. Anyway, they're going to tell us about how octopus and cephalopods generally, being that evolution is totally not true. That's going to be on Thursday the 2nd. On the 4th, I think we're going to be doing a Dapper Reacts. That's currently what I'm thinking. I will get with Vishanti and see if she is okay with that idea, because, you know, she was my guest for the first two of these, because we're still doing the Catholic creationism thing. Then on the 7th, we will be doing Kent with Bent in a tutu. Then on Thursday, I will be doing the movie version, the supercut of the Kurt Wise on fossils video. And that's the series in which Kurt Wise revealed that apparently he thinks that pine trees are extinct. I don't know why he thinks that, but it's what he displayed on screen, which is extremely confusing. And yeah, that's about as far ahead as I'm going to look right now. I'm hoping that Jeremy Spry, Jackson Wheat, and I can have a follow-up to our Saturday conversation, specifically about the age of the Earth. But with that, guys, thank you very much. If you are a member of the channel or the Patreon and you have access to the Discord server, we are going to be doing some watching of Power Rangers over there after this. So head on over there. I will be in, not immediately, but very soon. So have a great night, have a safe week, and I hope to see all of you on Thursday. Thanks for watching, but before you go, I just want to say a special thank you to my channel members and my patrons, especially those pledging $20 or above. Bob Knob, Work in Progress, Bent Hovend, Tapioca Weasel, Denny5252, Ian Chen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babbity, San, Sphincter of Doom, The Venerable Bede, Elran Teller, Dr. Tapioca Weasel, and Pat L. Dennis. As you probably know, YouTube is a very volatile platform, and from month to month my income on the channel can swing wildly. But the people you see on screen are directly supporting so that I don't have to worry too much about that, and the channel can keep going as it is, and perhaps even improving. If you'd like to join this team, there are links below to join the channel or in the description to join the Patreon. The Patreon starts as low as $1 a month, and the channel memberships start as low as $1.99 a month. On Patreon, you can even get a discount for pledging annually. If you do decide to pledge, you'll get access to an exclusive Discord server just for channel supporters, as well as early access to all of my pre-recorded videos, often up to 2 months in advance. Higher tiers will unlock even better perks. Now, if an annual or monthly pledge isn't right for you, but you still want to support the channel, there is a merch store down in the description, as well as an Amazon wishlist, just for me. And if financial support isn't something you can or want to do, then if you still want to help out the channel, please just like and share these videos and make sure you comment on them. It really helps the channel out. Thanks again for watching.